Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable with our sponsor and partner, RHF Ninja Warrior Competition. Today is Saturday, March 4th, 2023. March is Women's History Month. Our host is Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega, Scott's Arnold Productions. And also shout out to Leah Kaya doing all things technical in the studio today. Our partner, Darren Jeffrey, is on the line. He's a founding board member of RHF and also the original course creator builder for the TV show American Ninja Warrior, which airs on NBC. Our panelist is Sam Barnett. He is a retired U.S. Army Sergeant Major with 25 years of active duty in Special Forces, more than 12 combat deployments, RHF co-founder, former president, and currently an RHF board member, and his wife, Kathy Barnett, a military wife, of course, mother, grandmother, women's mentor, and author of Warrior's Bride, Biblical Strategies to Help Military Spouse Thrive. RHF co-family founder also. Discussion today is military families, and this is a couple with 9 kids. I want to get to that. So how you doing, Darren? What's going on today?
Oh, Sean, great to hear your voice. Thank you. It's again an honor. We're wonderful out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's actually sunny and warm. So, yes.
So you brought a couple with us again today, and they're going to talk about some important stuff, which we always get down to. We like to talk about military families, and also particularly when it comes to raising a military family. That's so important and such a big issue in the military communities, particularly if you're currently a service member. But even after you get out of the military, the transition part of it is also a challenge a lot of times. So Sam and Kathy, I'm glad to have you guys on the show.
Hey, Sean, this is Sam. That's great to be here with you and Darren as well.
So our pleasure is all ours. Kathy?
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
So, Darren, before we get into your guest you brought with us today, tell us a little bit what's going on with RHF nowadays. What's on the hot plate right now?
Oh, we on the hot plate. Our facility is open 24 or 7 days a week, not 24/7, but 7 days a week. So we're running programs out at Rick's Place, weekend programs. And then the park's open for the families to come out and use the park, the tree houses and all that midweek. And then we do have a shooting event coming up soon. I think, Sam, you may even have some details on that I don't have in front of me. We have a shooting event, which is a fundraiser, and we obviously have some great connections with some great shooters. And so it's a great chance for people to fly in and get a gun behind them and get some instruction, next to them. So that's kind of on our front burner right now.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Sam, you can tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think the details of that shooting event are being worked out at this moment. But I would second what Darren says. We want folks to come out, have a great time, get down behind some guns, and just just have a good time with the folks that will be out there and receive some good, solid, safe instruction about how to handle a pistol, a rifle. So as those details emerge, we'll get those posted in the appropriate place. But I would invite everybody to kind of look at the RHF Now website for the details as those come up.
So, Kathy and Sam, I talk to you for a second about your life because you have a lot to teach us and a lot to share with us about how to properly really embrace the military family role, because a lot of us have to deal with that. A lot of us have gone through that process. So tell us, first of all, how did your careers begin? What were you doing before you met? What were your careers before you met actually and started to raise a family?
I'll jump on that one first, and I think this might come to as a surprise to a lot of people, and Kath and I get a lot of different reactions here. But careers before we met were not a thing. I met that young lady walking into driver's education when I was 16 and she was 15. Wow. We were both in high school, and I think I had a pretty lucrative career at the time going on as a food stocker at the local grocery store.
Wow.
It's true.
So, Kathy, what can you add to that? So what was your first impression when you met Sam?
Well, I will tell you from the beginning, when he first asked me out on our very first date, when we were just teenagers, he laid out his plan for his future for me. I remember asking him, so what do you want to do, when we're done with high school? What are your plans? We were really just getting to know each other on our first date. And I remember him saying, well, I want to go into the military. I have an idea of having a career within the military. And I had no idea what that would look like or how that would look. And I remember my first thought being, well, this will probably be our last date because I didn't think I wanted to hitch my wagon to that.
Wow. So tell us about the process of raising of 9 kids, because you had 9 kids who were in the military. What was that experience like? A brief overview. I know, Sam, you were deployed more than 12 times.
Yeah. So I will tell you, I think you can. I'm going to turn that question over for Kath for a lot of the details there, but I will tell you, that was a lot of prayer, a lot of God's grace there, and a lot of deployments. A lot of folks ask me specifically, how did we pull that off? And the one thing I can tell you is, I routinely say this, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I met the best woman that I've ever even heard of, and I tried my best, and I won her heart, and we've been married for 30-something years. So, Kath, I guess from your perspective, what was it like raising a lot of kids with me gone so much?
Well, it was difficult at times. That's probably an understatement. It was in many ways almost as if Sam and I led parallel lives for a number of years. In the beginning, we were together more. He was very busy going through a lot of different schools, getting his different trainings and whatnot. And we just started having children right away. I graduated from college and tried to start a career, but babies just kept coming. And so ended up coming home by the time I was pregnant with our third child. And Sam was just gone a lot. And so it became almost necessary. It almost became cost effective for me to be home as opposed to paying for childcare for more and more and more children. So I came home to have children and began homeschooling because I was a teacher. That was what my education was for. And so I came home, decided I would homeschool a couple of years until we were done having children. Little did I know how many children were going to actually appear through the years. And so it just began with both of us just trying to, I honestly think, just keeping our heads above water for a while. In those early years, we just kept having baby after baby and deployment after deployment, and you just kind of keep going. It was difficult, to say the least, but I learned the best way for me to get through all of that time alone without him was really, truly to find others that were going through the same thing. Community became really my right and left arm at times to really support me, guide us, keep us able to just get through the hard things when I needed sitters, when he was away, when kids were sick, and when I had babies and he took off and I needed help with meals. It was finding other women that were just like me that needed support, and I needed support, and so we found each other. And I can't stress enough just how important community became. I know Sam and I, our faith was very important to us both as well. And that not only allowed us each to do our individual portions of what we felt like the Lord was calling us to do. For Sam, it was to go and go to war often. And then for me, it was to stay back and kind of keep raising a family and just keep our eyes fixed on the purpose of what we were doing, the good of what we were doing, and that not everybody could do it. And kind of coming to that realization that it was really kind of a high calling, empowered and encouraged us, I think, to continue forward. And again, I can't stress enough how important community became, just finding others that could help us navigate just the day-to-day often that was done so far apart.
Sam and Kathy, I gotta give you credit and also thank you for your service, because that is not an easy task to raise 9 kids, to grow together as a family, and then on top of that, going through some of the most difficult wars in our global history. You got the Iraq War, you got the Afghan War going on, and you're a combat veteran on top of that. So, Kathy, tell us about your book, Warrior's Bride, Biblical Strategies to Help the Military Spouse Thrive. How did you come up with this book, and what is this about, and what is this going to teach us?
Well, the Lord gave me the idea for this book, and Sam gave me the idea for the book. He came home from a deployment at one point, and I remember him looking at me and saying, "Babe, someday you're going to have to write down everything you've learned, and you really have learned to do this well." And I didn't feel like I had learned to do it well. I felt like I was, like I said a moment ago, sometimes just barely keeping my head above water, but he really encouraged me. He constantly encouraged me to press into the good of what we were doing, and reminded me there was purpose. And I think I did the same for him, because he too would get frustrated and wonder, why are we doing all this sometimes. But we did know that this country was worth fighting for, our families were worth fighting for, freedom was worth fighting for. And the sacrifice that he made going to fight, I felt like was equally made by our kids and myself as well, and by all military families. And so as I learned to navigate those years, just more and more, just really felt like that needed to be put down. I ended up co-authoring the book with a very dear friend named Carrie Dawes. Shout out to her. She's actually an author of multiple books, but she is a U.S. Air Force wife, military. He was, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. He was medically retired from the U.S. Air Force. Okay. And we co-authored the book together. She was a part of that community I was talking about. She was one of the many wives that came alongside me, and I came up alongside her, and the two of us together started a ministry where we were able to kind of come alongside a lot of women that found themselves in similar positions to us. So we just started penning after ministering to, just hundreds of women, literally, realizing that we just need to offer help. We need to offer practical help to these gals, especially the young ones that were just getting started and felt so overwhelmed about just how do you surrender your life ultimately to the U.S. government. And for us, it was surrendering our life really to the Lord and trusting that the place that we were called was intentional and was purposeful. And so really just wrapping your head around that and posturing yourself in a way that you could receive the blessing that came from this life rather than focusing on all of the hardships, because there's so much joy that can come from being a part of the United States military community. It's just a very unique family that there's great joy to be found in.
Kathy, I want to ask you this because you mentioned about faith and how important that was to get you through and help you grow as an individual and also as a family, especially through a difficult situation, being in a military family, being a military wife. Did you have that faith before you got married and did it develop stronger, or was it something that you already had a strong foundation in? How did your faith grow through those challenges?
Well, it definitely grew. I know I am a Christian, so I had a relationship with Jesus Christ prior to marrying Sam. But we were young. You have to realize Sam and I were 18 and 19 years old when we got married, had our first baby when we were 20, and we were both 20. It was 3 days before Sam's 21st birthday. And we were babies. I feel like now looking back, we were babies having babies, but we weren't. We were adults and we were plugging in. But there was so much we didn't know that we thought we knew. Like most people that are 18 to 20 years old, they think they know everything, and then we realized very quickly how much we did not know. And as we journeyed together in life, we both realized if we don't have something bigger than ourselves to look to, we realized very quickly our love was important and we did love one another, but it really wasn't going to be enough to hold us together. We really felt like there's got to be something bigger that we can anchor ourselves to. And both Sam and I love the Lord Jesus Christ. And so we anchored ourselves to him, and he has kept us intact. Honestly, at times when I think we could have and would have possibly sunk, he has kept us together and kept us floating in some really harsh storms. It is not easy to have any children, but to have 9 children, and that was tough. That was tough.
I appreciate your honesty, and I think that's so important for people to hear, because oftentimes people look at people that have done and accomplished what you've accomplished. I mean, you have a great military career, Sam. You wrote a book, Kathy. But sometimes we have to understand that everybody's human, and then we all come from different places. So, but you started from one place and grew into another place. You grew a family and grew success. So how do you have that handle that work-life balance today? What is that like today? And that's for Sam.
Yeah, so I will tell you, I get asked a lot about work-life balance as Kathy and I kind of grew and matured together, and as the kids came along. I need everybody to understand maybe. Kat's given you a bit of our story, how many years we've been married, but, we now have a 30-year-old son. We've got 7 grandchildren, one on the way. And so now work-life balance, when we're in the thick of it, in the thick of, what was then the global war on terror after September 11th, that was a lot different. I think, somebody was asking me not too many days ago, what was the work-life balance like then? And I will tell you there wasn't a whole lot of work-life balance that we could really carve out. And I'll point to fast forward from then to now, and it's why we're so thankful for Rick's Place, for the Rick Harama Foundation, and the vision that Josh had as he stood RHF up. But work-life balance now, I will tell you, is a lot easier. Kath and I have both chosen. We're very deliberate about carving some time out for each other, carving some time out, just for each of us to have separately. That's a little easier to do now. I mean, we still have some kids at home. We still have 3 to 4 kids at home at any given time that are still here under our roof. We're not done homeschooling. But I've transitioned on to a job as a contractor for the U.S. government. So it's a little easier now that the deployments aren't constantly coming and going. How that goes. A lot of people do know how that goes, but a little easier now to carve out that time for ourselves and then for each other. And so we have to be very deliberate and intentional about that. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And then you were also a close friend of Rick Haramas, and when he passed, tell us about, give us an idea about who Rick Harama was, what his life was like, what it was like being his friend, and how that brought you to RHF.
Sure. So Rick Harama, I knew Rick for a number of months. We were in a very high-performing unit, and I got to see Rick process through kind of the selection process of that unit. And I remember seeing him off in the distance as he was working his way through that. He was a top performer. I will tell you, I got to see him physically perform during those events, going through the selection process there. And then he became my friend. I was actually his team leader and I was his team leader the day that he was killed on April 25th of 2006. I will tell you, huge heart, salt of the earth, wonderful person. Way more of a people person than I ever was or probably ever will be. Able to great sense of humor, able to make us all laugh. Also able to, when it came down to it, just perform at another level. And that in the conditions that we were living in at the time and the things that we were called to do, the things that we had to do. I was so happy to have Rick right beside me in the days and the months that we were together. Certainly blessed to have known him as a friend. And then I will tell you, man, from the bottom of my heart, certainly blessed to know the Harama family and then to call them friends as well. both Dick and Mary, his mom and dad, Kate and Jane, his sisters. Just great people, solid family. Love those folks with all my heart, and would do anything for them. And it's easy to see where Rick got all of those character traits that he had after I got an opportunity to know his family when I got back from the deployment in 2006.
And then, so how did that lead you to the foundation? When did you come up with that idea, and how did you become a co-founder with your wife? How did that all shape up? Tell us about that, Sam.
Sure. There was another person here that figures in really heavily to the story. One of my best friends now, his name's Josh Ware. Josh and Angelina Ware. Josh was actually Rick's best friend, unbeknownst to me. So Rick and Josh had done a lot of things in the military together. They were best friends here at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Had a great life going together before Rick came over to the unit that I was in. And I had never really met Josh up until after Rick was killed in Iraq. I then became acquainted with Josh through fellowship with the Haramas family, as well as fellowship with got introduced with him as a brother in Christ as we were going through Manna Church. And it was actually Josh's idea to start Rick's Place. So Rick's Place, that facility, the grounds that we have here near Fort Bragg, North Carolina, for military families to just come out and unwind, Josh had that whole vision. And to be candid with you, when he first spoke to me about it, Kath and I went over to his house, and we kind of sat down, and I watched that guy. He's an incredibly talented individual with a huge call in his life. I watched that guy eat, I think about a dozen chocolate chip cookies and drink a glass of milk. Could still outperform me physically to this day. Kind of lay all that out, and I will tell you, it was just much bigger an idea that I would have had. But I certainly, it caught my heart. Very much appreciated what Josh had in mind. He had purchased about 25 acres, the first 25 acres that would become Rick's Place later on, and then. I got involved with that, still going on deployments. And I'll be candid with you, there early on, Kathy was more involved with that. And she would go out there and she would cut the grass, and she would do a lot of the groundskeeping. So we were in at kind of the grassroots level with just a few core other families getting things up and running. And then over the years, we were able to, tell the story of Rick's Place, tell the story of the military family, to some key people like Darren Jeffrey, get him on the board very early on so that he understood, hey, this is what we are. This is what we're trying to do. This is going to be the culture of the Haramas Foundation overall. And this is what we're trying to achieve, to try to minister to those military families who are going through the crucible of a military career with kids and everything else going on in life. We want to give them a place to be able to come in, de-stress, link shoulder to shoulder with other military families, get to know each other better, have a stage where they could be involved with one another. They could grow their relationships on the backdrop of just a beautiful place here in the neighborhoods in North Carolina. So, that kind of vision caught my heart, and I think it catches a lot of people's heart because they have an understanding that this is not an easy lifestyle that our military veterans have had over the past few decades. There's a lot of us still going through that, and I think we owe them a debt of gratitude. I think we owe them the opportunity to have something like Rick's Place easily accessible.
I appreciate that, Sergeant. I think that's a great comment you meant. I mean, because yes, our military family members, and particularly combat people that have been deployed, we need places to go to have fun and kind of let your hair down. Kathy, how do you have fun at Rick's Place?
Well, Sam mentioned I've cut a lot of grass out there, and believe it or not, grass cutting is therapeutic at times for me. Anyway,
you're the first person to ever say that, thinking in military history.
No, I do. I tell you what, it is a beautiful place to go. When I first stepped out there on the property, I met Angelina Ware on the property, and one of the first things I saw, because it was really just a blank canvas landscape of grounds that they were overrun and briary, and it literally just needed cleaned up and hacked down and ready. And all I could see were there were these giant trees. And I went home and I told Sam, I said, the very first thing we have to do is hang a swing out there for the kids from one of those trees. I said, and we need to build a picnic table. And those were the very first things that we did. And just to have a place where somebody could go with their kids and swing and play and throw a Frisbee and have a picnic and literally in the middle of a city, we have now over 50 acres out there at this point, and there are red-tailed hawks that fly. I've seen a fox on the property and rabbits and beautiful animals that. It's really just an amazing place to go with your kids and let them get dirty, let them play, and just let them run. And as a family, in those moments when you are trying to reintegrate post-deployment, it is so important to have space to just go. That doesn't cost money, that's not far away, that you don't have to do a huge planning for. You can just load up your family and go and enjoy being together outside. It is incredibly healing for families.
Kathy and Sam Barnett, appreciate your time. You gave us a lot of information. Also, we definitely get out to Rick's place. I got to see you out there one day. And also, when I got really interested in this shooting contest coming up, a shooting event coming up. Darren Jeffrey is a founding board member of RHF and also the original course creator and builder for the TV show American Ninja Warrior, which airs on NBC. And he brought us two great people, husband and wife, Sam Barnett and Kathy Barnett. Military families. This is all about America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.